Welcome to Apothecary After Dark, the official podcast of Amityville Apothecary.
This is what real witches talk about when the doors are locked, the lights are low, and the incense is still smoldering.
From spellwork and shadow work to hot takes on hexes, healing, and everything in between, we're serving up magic, mystery, and a little bit of mischief.
So pour a cup of your favorite libation, light that protection candle, and settle in. It's about to get witchy.
Hello, and welcome to Apothecary After Dark. It is the official podcast of Amityville Apothecary, and I am Danielle DC, co-owner of the Apothecary, here with my best girl, Dina.
Hey, everybody. What's going on? We're so excited to have Ike Baker back with us. We met Ike. When were you at the shop? Do you remember? It was was it the fall? Was it winter? It was a while ago.
I think it was, I want to say it was maybe last September. I can't really remember, to be honest with you.
Time's a blur.
Yeah, it was definitely long sleeve jacket weather, but not winter coat weather.
Right.
But your book had not yet been released, however. And so we didn't even have the copies in the shop. And here it is. It's a thing of beauty, Etheric Magic, a complete system of elemental, celestial, and alchemical magic. And this is something to sink your teeth into. Now, when you were here in the shop, we did a lot of the exercises from the book, but I would be really inspired to hear your story of how you began to put this system together.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I just want to say, I had a lot of fun when I came into the shop, and a friend of mine, because, I'm from Long Island originally. I spent the first 33 years of my life there, 34 years. So a buddy of mine he brought me to the shop, and I just looked around. I was like, I love this place. And so I had a great time given that workshop there. And I think the work that you guys are doing, especially for our little corner of the universe up there, is, you're definitely serving a seriously underserved niche there. So, there's plenty of shops that kind of, when I was coming up there and doing esoteric stuff and getting involved with orders like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, there were not many places to go to get reliable books, reliable equipment, and things like that. So I just want to, thank you guys for offering that. It's quite a thing to see. But
thank you.
Yeah,
that was really important. You know what? Because you're right. There aren't a lot of shops that have everything for everybody. It'll be one specific lane. And thank you for acknowledging that, because Danielle and I work really hard to make sure that we
want to be able to empower people with the knowledge and the tools that they need for their practice, however that looks. So I appreciate that acknowledgement. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I wish it was around when I was still living there. But it's great to have my book in store there. I started this stuff literally on Long Island. I went to New York College of Health Professions out in Syosset. And that's where I got my massage therapy degree. And I did the degree.
I almost went there for acupuncture, actually.
Well, that's that. I ended up going into the acupuncture and the Doctor of Oriental Medicine program that they had or have there. I don't know if it's still going on, but that's really when I began to, because the things that you have to do, the requisites, the prerequisites, you got to take a lot of Qigong. You got to take a lot of Tai Chi. It's actually amazing that they make you do this stuff. I know some people have to fulfill a phys ed elective when they go to schools. They do racquetball or whatever, but this quote unquote, elective or prerequisite, it never, you had to take it every trimester you were there. And we went to school in trimesters, so it was year round.
And correct me
And
if I'm wrong, I think that whole course of study is pretty much an equivalent of getting your master's, because it's the undergrad and it's a very intensive program at that school.
yeah, they have a master's, and then they have a doctorate too, a doctor of Oriental medicine. It's the OM program, so it's very rigorous. I have to say that. And the thing is, like, it doesn't matter if you're on the Western, massage therapy and body work. There's a lot of Asian body work that you get taught, but it doesn't matter if you're on that track or the acupuncture or the Oriental medicine track. Everyone has to do Qigong and Tai Chi. So day in and day out, incorporating these things into my practice while I was there, 10 years ago, I really began to see that, wow, first of all, this is powerful in ways that, I wasn't sure I was ready to believe. Something as simple as, and I should have known better because I was already a magician, but something as simple as just very slow postural adjustments and movements in tune with the breath and in sync with a certain center of gravity is very important in all this too. That feeling of dynamic equilibrium where you're almost at a certain point swaying like a tree gently in the breeze. That's a very important part of this. So this whole psychosomatic thing was actually having energetic repercussions, which were astounding. And so I noticed that there were certain aspects of magic that I would do. I'm very much somebody who needs I love instruction because I grew up just shunning any kind of discipline and any kind of authority, and so now I realize, like, wow, I might have overshot there. And so I'm redirecting. So even in magic, like, I didn't just decide one day I was going to start practicing magic. I found the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and as you may or may not know, if you're familiar with that trajectory, it's extremely disciplined. It's very curated. There is an entire curriculum. You get initiated, and then you get a binder this thick full of materials, and you got to take tests, and so having both of those things sort of beginning to permutate with each other really showed me that, wow, okay, there are certain exercises that I've been given magically, things like the middle pillar exercise, things like even the lesser and greater rituals of the pentagram, the rituals of the hexagram, which some people may or may not be familiar with, but they're all in that book, my book, Etheric Magic. They had a very similar effect to like doing a half hour of Qigong or something like that. And I realized, oh, okay, when we're doing things like consecration and ceremonial magic, we're not talking about it, but we're moving energy. We're moving chi, we're moving ether. And so it was really that realization when I woke up to that and began sort of incorporating the one with the other, because it's a 360-degree thing. It's a lifestyle, right? You get up, you do your meditation, you do your Qigong, you do your ritual, and then you go about your day. Or break that up however you have to. But it's a 360-degree thing. It's a lifestyle thing. So that really things began changing in a big way for me, not just physically, not just emotionally, not just mentally. My magic got way more amplified. I would say it got to the point where I had to be careful of like any obsessive thoughts or things like that, because I'd find that really the frequency of any kind of intense either attraction or aversion to one thing would inevitably bring that into my life. And I no longer had to do magical ritual for it. It just started really, really coming. And so I worked at this, and the systems, there was already a well codified system of what's called Neidan in the Taoist, esoteric Taoist practice, right? Neidan means it's basically internal alchemy. So they had an alchemical system very, very akin to ours, and so it was. I just had it in the back of my mind. Okay, this works on the salt, sulfur, and mercury, the three philosophic essentials, right? The principles of alchemy and the four elements. Right? Those two components, the salt, sulfur, mercury, and earth, air, fire, and water. I mean, that's most of the language of alchemy. And so
So
it
hold on.
grafted really well. Go ahead.
I
Sorry.
just want to interrupt because I wasn't as familiar with the terms that you're using as it relates to like ceremonial magic and
Mm-hmm.
Qigong, but I am a Reiki master and I was like, oh, it's universal life force energy.
That's it.
So that's what Reiki means. What etheric energy means, but there's so many different ways that people communicate like what the name is, right?
Right.
So for the layman who doesn't know any of this, is that
Right.
how you would just break it down in a very simple
Yeah. I mean,
explanation?
I would basically say that it's, yeah, if you've done work with either chi or in the Japanese, right, in the Reiki tradition, it's ki, right? They sound similar. Or if you've done, if you work with prana in the yogic system, pranayama and things like that, it's the same thing. It's the same concept. There's different ways of referring to that. So,
So when you started putting it in the book and I started
mhm.
really like diving into it, the way that you explained it was so helpful and informative because you made it very approachable. So thank you for doing that. I learned a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I appreciate that. And I don't, it's in the same way it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a team to write a book. So, I mean, I had all the core materials and I had everything, really carefully laid out, but I had a really great editing team too that, it's really helpful for anybody that's been in the middle of a project. It's just really helpful to have a few objective voices, giving you some tips and some notes. And so I have to acknowledge, my team over there, Lauren Feynman and Heather Green over at Llewellyn. They were fantastic. But the funniest part of it all was that the book kind of happened almost on a lark. Ivo Dominguez, he invited me to a conference, Sacred Space Between the World, and give me really short notice. He's like, "Oh, get here if you can." I'm like, "All right." So I had to take off of work, and I drive all the way to Maryland. I get there late, go in early on the second day, and I look at the itinerary, and it says 5 minutes with a Llewellyn acquisitions editor. I was like, okay, well, this is interesting. And there's probably like 5 or 6 people lined up. So I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, this is great. What are we going to do? We're going to pitch a book. This is great. I get online and I'm standing there. And as the line's getting shorter and shorter, I'm like, wait a minute. I don't have a book. Now, if you talk to my fiance, she's like, yeah, that is textbook like I'm just jumping in, where everybody's like, hey, let's go in the pool and they're changing into their swimming gear. I'm already in fully clothed, halfway to the other side. So I jump in and I'm like, I realize I don't have a book. What am I going to do? What am I going to pitch? I didn't even think about this. And it just pops into my head. Like, yeah, what about this thing you've been doing for 10 years, dummy? Like, why don't you pitch that? So in like 25 minutes, I kind of like, I was like, okay, I had this system readily available in my head. I told Heather, she was like, I like it. Send me your, an introduction and your first chapter. And I went into the eating area at the conference center. I wrote the introduction and the first chapter. And
That's
I sent
great.
it to her, and we got a book.
Wow. I love
Yeah.
that. We were just talking with somebody else about when all of the elements are there, the preparedness is there, you were doing it. So all of the green lights just opened up for you and, opportunity presented itself.
Every time.
I love it.
That it's so funny. Like, this is really how we run the shop, is that if there's a lot of resistance, we're like, no, it's too resistant. Don't bother.
Right.
And when it just like flows, that you're in that space. And it's like the same sort of with energy, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, that's the whole a huge premise of the movement of energy is just being relaxed, and that's was one of the things for people that are maybe interested in the Golden Dawn tradition, which, I mean, the Golden Dawn tradition It seeded. It like spread seeds for all these other traditions. Crowley's thing, Dion Fortune's thing, just tons of stuff came out of the Golden Dawn. But Israel Regardie, when he was, doing a lot of publishing and bringing the system back into the mainstream, he wrote a lot about the art of relaxation. He wrote a book called The Art of Relaxation. And it was very similar to some of the techniques I put in that book, because I incorporated some of that, but they're also very similar to the Eastern techniques. So yeah, relaxation, and we have a saying, right, where the mind goes, the chi flows, the energy flows. So if you have a lot of tension or anxiety or even bodily tension, I know as a massage therapist, I worked in physical therapy for a while. I can tell when people are tense because they do this. Like their shoulders they like hug their ears. And I constantly have to tell people, take a deep breath and relax. So tuning into that, like having that somatic awareness is part and parcel of magic, and particularly the etheric magic system.
Yeah.
So you have a whole series of movements that you teach people how to do.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about the framework of what people can expect in this book.
Sure. So I break everything I do down into basically 3 components: history, theory, and practice. I've always done that from day one. But the practice part, right? Especially because it's a Llewellyn book, is very, very full. I would say probably like 2/3 of the book is practice, but there are several stages of that practice, because not everybody is automatically in tune with what I call their etheric field, right? Their own personal etheric energy. It's kind of like if you've had a limb that's gone into atrophy, you've got to kind of learn to slowly wiggle your fingertips and then, move the wrist and train the brain, the mind, to gain control and fluency with it. And it's the same thing with the etheric field. So the first few exercises are geared towards awakening the ether. There's a whole chapter on that. And it's very simple exercises that allow you to practice perceiving it first, because that's a way of linking your conscious mind to it. Simple exercises of seeing it and feeling it. So visual and tactile perception. And then from there, we go into the basic postures that allow you to move it just within your microcosm. Some people call it an aura, but in my book, I call it the sphere of sensation. And so you just move it around there, and it kind of breaks up any blockages, any, over time, it breaks up any of these repetitive loops that maybe are related to some of our sensitivities, anxieties. And then from there, you cultivate it. And that is when you really start to empower. So you've got to link, move and cleanse, cultivate and empower. And then finally, the last piece is projecting it outside of your aura or sphere of sensation for the purposes of magic. So it's kind of that 4-step process that's very methodical.
So this is your formula for how to further your chances of manifestation and empowerment, utilizing and harnessing that energy to maximize the return of your intention, correct? Is that a good synopsis for everyday person?
It is. And, it is coupled with techniques that will allow you to tap into you'll dial into specific either elements, planetary energies, or zodiacal energies. And effectively what happens is it becomes an alchemy of the elemental self. It becomes an alchemy of the self. When you start moving this energy, it's going to essentially catalyze some form of initiation for you. So there's a section on that too, and that goes towards personal power, that goes towards magical power, and really a big aspect that maybe we don't talk so much about in our communities is health and wellness, healing.
Yeah. Definitely.
Absolutely.
I mean, we certainly don't talk about, I think, health and wellness because maybe it's too mundane or, but so much of, stuck energy, even just our anxieties getting trapped in. I mean, my gosh.
Repressed,
Yeah,
stagnant
for
energy
sure.
that we stuff our feelings, we don't communicate, we have
Mhm.
blockages, and those prevent energetic flow. And that causes dis-ease within
Yep.
any variety of the bodies, the physical, the mental, spiritual,
Yeah.
energetic, etc. So I totally agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and there's actually a Reiki technique. I also took Reiki, and there's a Reiki technique in there, the Biosin scanning. So you can actually, since you learn to develop that tactile perception, you can essentially use your hand to sense any kind of disruption in the various layers of the aura. So there's definitely stuff in there that has to do with healing, because ultimately I think that right, I talked about a little bit about how there's a big group of texts in the Chinese tradition. We don't have a whole lot of actual texts that survive from antiquity about energy and about this life force energy. But the reason why these things were so codified and so systematized is because they were part of medicine.
Yeah.
They wrote this stuff down. They developed an entire medical theory around it. We still use in the present day with the chi theory, meridian theory for acupuncture, acupressure, all of that stuff. So I think to abstract it from that health component is, you just can't do it and be and remain holistic about the practice.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm happy to see a lot of the modern health facilities, especially like Northwell Health System
Mhm.
here in New York. They're starting to be more open to accompanying wellness centers that incorporate practices such as Reiki to work in tandem with traditional modern medicine, if you will,
Mhm.
which is a big progression from where
Definitely a
things
step
used to be.
forward for
Yeah.
sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the great thing is because people are really they've pulled it out of the quote unquote waste bin of ideas here in the West, and so there's more of a demand and more of an interest in it. And yeah, I definitely saw that going to school for this stuff, that it was like somehow. And I think what's really interesting is that there's this um, there's this sort of intersection between magical communities and the subculture and the counterculture that they created in the 80s and 90s that actually helped bring this sort of like green wellness thing to the mainstream in some
Yeah.
way. So it's almost like coming full circle on itself in a lot of ways.
That's true. I mean, it's interesting, but a lot of the stuff that was really counterculture, not really spoken about in, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. Now we're just having these conversations. I
Mhm.
actually had to, I, I don't know if you are on TikTok a lot. I know I see you on Instagram, but I don't know if I see you on TikTok. But there's always something that the young kids are going after. And right now in this moment, they're going after Wicca.
Interesting.
They are. And I'm not a Wiccan, so
Mhm.
you know, I get some of the things that they're like not jiving with the younger ones. But what
Okay.
they don't seem to realize is that like in the 80s and the 90s, some of the only books we had
Right.
were from Wiccan traditions. Some of the only books that we had, like they also love to go after, Crowley. And
Mhm.
which, certain aspects he was certainly problematic, but like this whole like throwing the baby in the bathwater. But what's really interesting, I was trying to explain to them, like, we didn't have,
There was hardly any
there was
resources.
nothing. And
Mhm.
even if you had an amazing library, did your library have these books?
Right.
No, stuff like this did not exist. Shops like ours did not exist. Maybe if we had a book as a resource,
One
that
book,
was,
two books.
yeah, few and far between.
Yeah. So now
I know we're aging ourselves.
I know.
No, I mean, and but here's the thing, right? I mean, it's people that experienced that lack that ultimately are now coming forward, and because I experienced it too, and the lack of, I would say, qualified voices as the audience transitioned from bookstores to online to YouTube. I think one of the the most compelling things for me to be 100% honest with you, I feel like I could have just had my magical practice and been completely happy. Like today for 6.5 hours, you know what I did? I did something really fun. I just worked on my bibliography and citations for my next book. So I had so much fun doing that. So, but there was really this sense of compulsion. I felt like I had to, step in because I saw a lack in a particular area and an opportunity to wear that responsibility. And but it takes a huge team. Somebody like Evo, right, the master chess player who somehow knows to invite this guy to this thing because he's going to write this book. And then I go there and I've got a great editor, and then you guys selling the book, and I get to come there and hang out with you and do your podcast. So it's really it's great to also have this community. That's the big thing now. We have a community.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Evo's very impressive and fascinating.
Oh my gosh.
So
great.
I'm excited to hear about your new book. You want to give us a little teaser about the theme, or do we have to wait?
Okay. No, I give you, I'll try and be brief about this. It's essentially, I'm not going to name the publisher yet because I haven't made an announcement, but everything's in with them for the most part. It's tentatively entitled Mythology. And I have tackled certain forms of mythology, whether that be Celtic or ancient Greek, Sumerian, Mesopotamian, Egyptian, a lot of the Taoist stuff, Chinese mythology. And I've shown where they have common motifs, particularly concerning like cosmology, metaphysics, and the story of the soul.
Oh, this is gonna be great.
I'm excited.
And I've not just done that like with my own opinion. What the most important part of the book is that I've gone back and shown that there are traditions that are over 1,000 years old that have been doing this level of interpretation. And as a matter of fact, they played a huge part in the rituals of the mystery traditions. They would reenact some of these myths because they were about the creation of the universe or the descent of the soul into the material sphere. So that'll probably be coming out in 2026, I want to say, but it was a labor of love.
That's awesome. I can't wait.
Now I know why you were spending 6 hours on a bibliography, but because, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
That's great. I can't wait. Keep us posted. And then you got to come back and we'll do a big book launch for you.
Sure.
So,
that'd be great.
So where can people that are interested in your system of magic, your podcast, find more about you?
So the best place to get everything in one spot is my website, ikebaker.com, ikebaker.com. It's got my latest documentary style presentation from the Arcanum channel, which is kind of what I started off doing. I created the Arcanum channel on YouTube. It's also a podcast. So I have guests on, I've had Evo on, and but I do documentary style presentations. You can watch the latest one streaming from my website. You can listen to the last 3 podcast uploads that I did. You can read my blog, find out about all the different kind of excursions and lectures I'm doing in Egypt and things like that. And what's real cool is that there's a widget in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. It's a little chat box. And if anybody has any questions or comments or wants to reach out, I try and make myself pretty available to the public. Please be nice. But whatever you type into that little box will come directly to my personal inbox. So ikebaker.com, IKEBAKER, and the channel is Arcanum on YouTube and Spotify, ARCANVM.
Yes, and you could buy his book, Etheric Magic, here at Amityville Apothecary on our website or in our store. And definitely stay in touch, my friend. We're excited for you. Thanks for spending time with us. Everybody who is watching this, please comment, share your feedback, share your love for Ike and his work, and definitely come visit us again in the next episode. And thanks for spending time with us.
Thank you. We'll see you
Thanks,
soon.
guys.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. Bye, guys.
That's all for tonight, witches, but the magic doesn't stop here.
Be sure to follow Apothecary After Dark wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Leave us a comment or review. We'd love to hear what's stirring in your cauldron.
And you can always find us at shopamityvilleapothecary.com or at Amityville Apothecary across all the socials.
Until next time, keep your wards up, your wands at the ready, and your spell work sharp.